HOSA is grateful to the USA Today Charitable Foundation for continuing to identify partnership opportunities and providing ways for HOSA chapters to be involved in community service. In addition to a program that focuses on preventing hunger, Lead2Feed is a service learning program that nurtures a new generation of leaders while working to end world hunger. HOSA advisors also receive free materials and free access to the electronic edition of USA Today and other resources that enhance the classroom experience. You will recall from all the emails that Nancy sent last year promoting this effort, encouraging your chapters to sign up. Through those efforts last year, HOSA received $6,000 as a part of a sign-up program, with 200 advisors participating with the same agreement in place this year. We welcome Linda Spar, Project Manager, USA Today Charitable Foundation, to share more about this turnkey leadership curriculum free to HOSA advisors. Please welcome Linda Spar. Do you need someone to do this for you?
If I can ask you to change a couple of pages as we go, would you mind doing that?
Not
Okay. Good afternoon. Wonderful to be here. This scroll is probably going to drive me crazy out of the corner of my eye, so we'll switch to the page in just a minute. But thank you for having me here today. And it was wonderful to catch the tail end of your user experience training, because I have to do user experience training for my group next week, and I'd like to just borrow the folks that were up here a few minutes ago who did a great job. But who is our Nevada representative? Is that you? Well, I want to appreciate you because Elaine Adams out of Nevada is on our educator advisory board, helping us develop Lead2Feed in a way that works for you in the HOSA environment in your chapters, or if you're a teacher in the classroom as well. So we appreciate Elaine's efforts. She was my seatmate on the bus during our conference this summer, so it was a lot of fun. And she had several teams that participated all the way through and entered their projects in our challenge last year.
And gung-ho,
yes,
sharing it with everybody.
Yep, and I think each of her teams qualified as third place winners and won some money before their charities, so we appreciate that. But let's just let me get a gauge on the room here. Who has heard of Lead2Feed in the past? Okay, a fair number of people. Who has participated or registered in the past on our website? Okay, the numbers get smaller. Okay, and we appreciate that if you did that. If you registered, that was the first step, and we do have a partnership with HOSA where they can earn an incentive for registration, but that's just the beginning. Ideally, we would like for you to consider this as a program that helps you instill leadership skills in students, and then teaches them to use those leadership skills in service to others. Because if you're going to be a leader, there are a lot of ways to be a leader, and there are a lot of ways to influence others positively or negatively. Lead2Feed is based on a book called Taking People With You by David Novak. David Novak is the chairman and CEO of Yum Brands, which is Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, and Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Go Kentucky.
All right.
I think it's KFC now.
KFC, right.
There is no Kentucky.
I'm not supposed to say fried, right. But I can tell you, if you flip around our website, David is personally invested in this program. So much so that the program is funded by his family foundation, Lift a Life, with his personal money. So he is the donor. He provides the money to the USA Today Charitable Foundation, and we develop educational programs like Lead2Feed for use in schools and associations across the USA. So David has videos for every lesson. He has extra videos. He speaks all the time for us. He's just really a believer that the leadership lessons he teaches in the corporate world, all over the world, can also be taught to students, so we can shape leaders at an earlier age and shape service-minded leaders, which is really where his passion rests. So tell me about yourselves. Personally, have you worked on a mission or a project or something related to hunger specifically. Has anyone been involved in projects related to fighting hunger? You nod your head, you don't have to call yourself out, but okay, so a few of you. I would assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, that all of you have been involved in service in some way, charity service projects through your students, through your own situation. Okay. What about hunger? Every room full of people has people in it who have food insecurities or have at some point in their life known food insecurity. Food insecurity is loosely defined as not consistently aware of where your next meal is going to come from. So the statistic that's out there right now, and this is National Hunger Month, is 1 in 5 students in the United States has some kind of a food insecurity. I find that staggering. 1 in 5. That's a lot of people who don't consistently know where their next meal is going to come from. Now, you may be in a situation where you're in an affluent area and that's not an issue. You may be in a situation where you're in the opposite setting and food insecurities are much greater than 1 in 5. But 1 in 5 is a staggering number. So before we took the break, you might have had a temporary hunger situation. And I say that hunger is a distraction in need of a solution. The solution was those amazing lemon bars. That's a temporary hunger distraction. But the bigger hunger distractions are what we want to address through leaders serving others. So last year we had over 250 HOSA chapters sign up and participate at some level. Some went all the way through and entered projects in our challenge. Some registered and reviewed the lessons and considered it, maybe taught some of the lessons, all different levels of participation. So I looked at the goals before I got here for HOSA. Maybe I can find them here from your website. And I highlighted the ones that match up to the Lead2Feed, what Lead2Feed addresses. So really, other than finding a career in the health sciences field, all of the other goals clearly line up with the Lead2Feed program. So you could meet these goals or accomplish your mission in some way or fully through Lead2Feed. So what is it? What do? You have a lot of choices in your chapters, and you have a lot of choices as teachers, and I recognize that. I come from a family with 6 kids, and I have 2 teachers, two siblings who are teachers. I have the highest level of respect for teachers, let me tell you. I mean that sincerely, because if you put me in a room with kids, you'd pull me out of it fairly quick. I teach adults all day, every day. Kids are a challenge, so what you do is amazing. I have so much respect for it. It's not my natural talent, so I'm so thankful that others will do that. But what we find is that when you use these lessons, you take students who people don't see as leaders, who they themselves don't see as leaders, and you change their lives. And I heard someone say earlier that you're in the business of changing lives. If you can equip them with the tools so they can change their lives, and then they can use those skills to go change others' lives, that's really cool. That's amazing. So let's talk about what Lead2Feed is. It's a 10-lesson curriculum, and I shared, there are a few copies of the lesson plans. You can tell the difference. One has the blue box, that's the student edition, and one has the picture of the book. So there are 10 lessons that look like this. This is lesson 1. And they're all self-contained. So if you were to make a photocopy of the student lesson, if you flip through it, they can do the complete lesson right here in these pages. There's room for them to write if they're supposed to write something. You can also do it online, so it can be done either way. You can download the lessons in black and white or color, depending on your situation and your ability to print. There are lots of different ways you can implement this, but there are 10 lessons. So you can go through the 10 lessons. You could do that in 10 weeks. You could do that over the school year. You could do it in the classroom setting. You could do it in your chapters. So you go through that process. They're all aligned with Common Core. So if you're a state that has Common Core state standards, they're all aligned with Common Core. So you see up here there's a Common Core button, and that has our two-sided grid on it. There are a couple copies of those as well. And it shows the alignment. So if you're required to meet Common Core goals, you would see that and how you were able to do that. So then you go through the lessons, and as you're going through the lessons, you're beginning to apply those lessons to a service project. So if you're in lesson 2, you're going to pick your team name, you're going to list the students on the team, you're going to pick your team's slogan, and you're going to go through that. So every lesson has you start to apply. Because learning is wonderful, but if you don't ever apply it, it's learning and then tomorrow it's forgotten. So you start to apply, you start to do your project. By the time you get to lesson 6, for example, you would pick your charity, and you need to know how to pick a registered 501c3 charity. You need to know how to pick a charity that can do a hunger project, can do a project that fights hunger. So you go through that process in lesson 6. By the time you get to lesson 8, it's how do we market? How do we tell the world what we're doing? Students don't usually need that lesson because they're social media crazed. And it's social media, it's news media, how do we write a press release, how do we tell others what we're doing, how do we share our message? And then you're going through the lessons, and you're always checking in. So at lessons 2, 6, and 9, for example, you check in, you give us a little bit of information. We respect your time, so all of that information stays in your profile. But when you registered, you create a profile. It all tracks. So at the very end, you've done your project, your students have done their project, and then we want you to tell us your story. So you've populated most of the information on the submission form where you see about the challenge. The challenge is the contest component. So you go to submit your project on your dashboard, it populates everything you've told us on all those lesson check-ins, and then it asks you a few more questions. Give us some student reflections, tell us what lessons were most impactful, tell us some personal student stories, upload some photos of your project in action, those kind of things. You'll see all that as you track along. And then you submit your project. So you've done the lessons, you've done the project, you tell your story. We take all of those submissions and we put them before a group of educators, judges, and then the finalists go on to a group of judges from all of our boards. There are 3 foundations that work together on this project. And then we choose winners, and 5 grand prize winners get $25,000 for their charity. So you've done a project, and your students have seen hunger face to face. They've been hands-on doing something for somebody else that makes a difference. And then they can tell the story and win $25,000 for the charity. So last year we had a school in Baltimore that won, and the school called the charity, Meals on Wheels, and they said, we won $25,000 for you guys. Well, there was an intern that took the call, and she called the executive director who was on the road and said, Harbor School called and we won $25,000. And she said, it's your first week. Did they say $250? Maybe it was $2,500. Nobody gives us $25,000. Are you kidding me? And we did. And the students did. The students presented that check. It was amazing. And they won $25,000 for their charity to say, well, the work we did, we told that story, and we got you even more help. And for students, that's very powerful. All I had to do was tell somebody my story, and I could extend my work. It's about taking people with you. And then this year, we've layered in a new piece because we know how hard you work. And we have the opportunity to win up to $25,000 in technology products for your school. So the way that will happen is you can enter your project as soon as you're done, and you can hit submit. So all projects that are submitted by December 15th, which is things that are done in the first 10 or 15 weeks of this year, will be eligible for 5 $5,000 technology grants. So then we'll move forward, and then we'll have another drawing on March 15th for some projects that have been completed and submitted by that point. Now, we aren't judging the projects, we're just, you submitted, you go into a drawing of all submitted projects. We'll do 5 more $5,000 technology grants. Then the deadline to enter your project for this school year is April 17th. So everybody else will finish their projects and enter by April 17th, a completed project. We'll judge those projects and announce 5 grand prize winners like we did this year. And those winners will get that $25,000 for their charity, but then they'll get another $20,000 in technology products for their school. Wow. So we really felt like we had to address the issue of how do we recognize the school and how do we appreciate you for what you do. So, you know, money is a great motivator and it's a wonderful opportunity. For me, it's about the stories. It's about the lives that were changed. So I'd like to just share some examples from the 5 grand prize winners last year. One of these scrolls says, and the winners are. If you click into that, all of these videos are on our blog page. But the Harbor School I told you about won $25,000 for Central Maryland Meals on Wheels. The Harbor School, in addition to going and serving meals with Meals on Wheels, planted a garden and they grew vegetables. But they learned the lesson of taking people with you, and they said, what if we told other schools, why don't you join us and grow a garden? And they called it Global Garden Growers. And they sent letters. They wrote letters, and in the letter, in the package, they gave you a seed packet. They gave you gardening gloves. They gave you a little spade to dig for your seeds. And then they said, well, what the heck are you going to do when you grow these vegetables? So they researched recipes for the seeds they gave you. So they gave you tomatoes. They researched recipes that you could cook tomatoes. And they made a little photocopied recipe book of a few recipes for your seeds. They sent those out and said, will you join us? And they sent them to 30 schools, and 17 schools joined them and grew gardens. So not only did they work in their own community, they extended the message, took others with them. They told us their story, and they won $25,000 for their charity. Now, the Harbor School is a special needs school in Baltimore for children who can't function in a mainstream environment for special needs students. So if they really can't work in a mainstream situation, then they go to the Harbor School. So nobody saw those kids as leaders. They were the castaways. If you watch their video of ABC News interviewing them, those kids are leaders. They know what they did, they know how to take people with them, they knew how to market their message, they're excited, and I believe they will always be in service to others. They never for 1 second said, everybody has to serve us, everybody has to take care of us. They loved the idea of taking care of others because nobody had ever asked them to do that before. Amazing kids, amazing kids. So we had so much fun with that group, and they got a proclamation from the Senate and the state and the Congress in Maryland. They were on all of the news channels. They were interviewed. They told their story over and over again. It's just precious. So then you go to Brielle, New Jersey, on the coast of New Jersey, a very affluent community. And they were hit by Superstorm Sandy. And that community did not know hunger. They had a soup kitchen and they fed some people, but no real issue. Superstorm Sandy devastated. We all saw it on the news, devastated. I don't know is anyone here from New Jersey? Okay. You may be familiar with Brielle, but they created an elective class called I See Hope, the letters I See Hope. And they addressed hunger in their community in a powerful way. 6th graders, because the program is available for 6th through 12th grade. These were 6th graders. And they went out and did amazing things. They put the lessons, the slogans from the book all over the walls of the school. They just did amazing things. Changed lives, fed families. Now some of these kids had lost their home and everything in it. They'd never been through an experience like that and probably never will again. changed their life, they changed the lives of others. They won all the Lead2Feed stuff, entered their project in the Governor's Cup for charitable activities in the state of New Jersey, and won the Governor's Cup Award for the state of New Jersey. So, and this is going out and serving others in one meal, one activity, 1 hour of service, little by little, incremental. So, you know, very different situations. So the day I went to Brielle to present their award, I also went to the Bronx, to the Walter Damrosch School. Walter Damrosch School is in the middle of the Bronx. I'm not from the Bronx. I don't generally drive around in the Bronx. There were no door handles on the doors, inside or out. There were chain link fences higher than me around everything. It was just a very, very sad environment. We went in the school and the teacher was so excited and the kids were really sweet. And she said, "This is a school for children who have hurt their teacher." I'm like, okay. Could we have talked about that before I got here? I'm not really comfortable. Had I not known that, again, all of a sudden a label, had I not known that, those kids came up, they gave me a t-shirt, their team was called Feeding Angels. They gave me a t-shirt, they told me their stories. They said, come on, we got posters. They did posters on the wall. And they tracked their progress. They collected cans, they worked in soup kitchens, they did service hours, they did all this amazing stuff. And they had tracked it all. The fact that they could track it, that they could do Excel, that they could do all this stuff. Even I, when I heard their situation, immediately underestimated them. And I was very angry at myself for doing that because they were amazing. So they went to soup kitchens and they told their story to us. So in their submission, they said, we went to the soup kitchen, and then we came back to class, and we don't ever want to go there again because those people are really needy. They're really down and out. We were sad that people lived that way. Now these kids were so poor and so disadvantaged, and they didn't see themselves that way. They went and they were appalled, and they were like, we're not going back. We know, the teacher said. And she said, no, we're fine. We don't have to do that again. I wanted you to do it once. And it took about a week, and then they said, okay, maybe we'll go back. And then they went back, and they served again. And one of the little boys saw his neighbor. He runs up to the teacher, what's she doing here? And she said, well, this is where she's getting her lunch today. Why? Because this is where she gets her food. He was shocked. They learned so much about life. Again, kids who had always thought the system needed to do for them realized that they could do for others. There were others that needed even more than they needed, or needed something different than they needed, and they could provide that. That was amazing. They could deliver the cans they collect. Amazing. So that's 3. 4 is Phoenix. I met someone from Arizona. You're from Arizona. Glendale, Arizona, Raymond S. Kellis High School. We have a fireball of a teacher in that school. And she has tons of teams going on. So one of her teams is 6 girls, again, in very affluent situations, 6 well-to-do girls. And they decided that they would not only work in their own community, but they would go to Mexico and help a town. So they picked a town based on hunger statistics, and they went 6 hours across the border, and they worked with this town, and they started doing things in this town. Now this is 6 affluent teenage girls. They have no business to be in across the border handing out food, but they decided that's what they would do. They took an adult with them, and they worked in this community, and they met the mayor, and he said, I have a family you can help. Come with me. So they met a family of 5. The mother had just had a brand new baby, and they were terribly poor, never had food. So they decided they would adopt and help this family, in addition to helping to meet the food needs of this small town. So they got their town to help meet the food needs of the small town. They do this, they're totally moved. These girls said, we saw the face of hunger and our lives were changed. They came home and they got the news that the mother had died. 6 affluent teenage girls. Their lives will never be the same, ever. And I believe they will always serve that community, individually and collectively. And they struggle to find a 501c3 charity that would support them because it has to be a U.S. charity and you have to do some of your work in the U.S. So one of their fathers formed a nonprofit. And they went through the process also of learning how to become a nonprofit. So they, as they graduated from high school, they could go into service full time. Amazing. Those girls were amazing. And the mayor showed up at the awards presentation. Oh my gosh, talk about waterworks. Woo! It was just tears upon tears. He was so moved. So then one more school, one more grand prize winner. Belgrade, Montana. All right. The Brielle School, Pam Norman was the teacher. She was a 45-year veteran of teaching. Taught in the same school for 45 years. Flip gears, go to Belgrade, Montana. Ashley Newell, first-year teacher. She hears about Lead2Feed at a conference. She says, I think we can do this. So she gets her kids together and they do a project and she says, do whatever you want. And they couldn't agree, so they decided they would do 2 projects, which they entered all as one program. So our first project was called Meal Barrows. Now Belgrade is a farming community. So they painted wheelbarrows. This is the coolest idea, I think. I hope everybody does this all over the country. They painted wheelbarrows. And then they put them around town, these are them, and that's how they collected cans. That's how they do it. They put them outside of businesses, and that's how they collected cans. But the taking people with you, Lead2Feed lessons are always about extending further than you think you can go. You're a leader, take it further. So then they, at the end of that program, they brought all the meal barrows in to the gymnasium and they auctioned them off. Now they had gotten the art class to do the paint the meal barrows and they'd had their own little contest around that, so everybody was involved in the school, but they were running the program. So they auctioned off the meal barrows and donated even more money to their charity. But they had, remember I said they couldn't agree on a project. So they did, they wrote a book, a children's book, called One Garden at a Time. Remember, it's a farming community, so many of the children lived on farms. And they realized that if they told the story of a little boy who grew his own garden with his parents to have food for his family, but he knew of other children who didn't live on a farm, he could have one person over and they could have a little plot of land to grow food for their family on his farm. They got permit. So the whole story, they illustrated it again, they helped, had everybody in the school help them, and they self-published their book just in their community. And they put a copy in every elementary school library in their area. But they didn't stop there. Then they went to all of the elementary schools and they read the story to the children. Because if you were an elementary school student and you could hear the story, then you could do what the little boy in the book did. You could go home and you knew what to do. They extended and extended and extended. Amazing kids. First year teacher wins $25,000 for her charity. Tons of publicity. Amazing. She's just as precious and humble as she could be. So there are 5 completely different ideas, 5 very, very different areas of the country, economic situations, just life-changing. And there are many, many more. We received over 100 submissions to the project last year and to the challenge and saw that. So that's where you can go with it. But some people have to start out slow and they just collect cans. So if David were here, he would tell you this story, and this was a 3rd place winner, middle school, and they just collected cans. And they got all done, and they had 31 cans. And they were mad. 31 cans? We're never going to win $25,000 with 31 cans. Are you kidding me? So one of the boys said, I want to know how many cans you brought in. I want everybody to tell me, because we only got 31 cans. What the heck? We went around the room, and one boy said, I brought the only extra can of food we had. And David Novak said, that's enough cans. That is 100% of a hunger solution. And that is the only story he tells. He doesn't tell the 5 grand prize winners, although he has a heart for that, and he did personal video messages to each of those teams. He tells that story. Because if all you have to give to somebody is one extra can of food, that's enough. That you're 100% of the solution. So I hope you take that message back with all the other exciting messages, because sometimes people, and I talked to someone, and it might have been you the other night, who said, they all think so big and we couldn't possibly do all that stuff. And maybe it's just something real simple. It's one-to-one. There's a hunger need and we can address it. And then we can tell others and they can do that too. So it's just simple, sharing, taking people with you, and going through the process. Now, if you guys are here as state advisors, I'm speaking to the choir, I'm preaching to the choir. You know how to do that, and you've seen your students do that. So we would invite you to participate in Lead2Feed. There's a handout that shows leadership lessons that we've created this year, because we have people say, well, what will they learn? So if you need your students to pick up any of these skills, we tried to pull out what skills come out of each lesson. So we would invite you to take a look at that, and if you find a need there, this might be a program. But what I love about this is that you can do what you do and change lives and teach leadership, which is so much of your mission in HOSA. And then you can tell us your story and really extend the solution, the celebration, the amount of impact in your community. And that's what we love about it. Now, I spent 32 years working in the corporate world for USA Today, and now I tell people I do, and I loved it, but now I do only what I'm passionate about. So I'm a project manager for a variety of projects. This is my big one. But I do this because I'm passionate about it, because I go to each of the schools and I talk to the students, and I see that it really works. And so, let's do what works. There's a lot of choices out there. Let's do the quick and easy ones that work. But you guys do amazing work in your organization and with your students. And I've been on your website. I've heard your stories. As I said, I sat next to Elaine on the bus for 3 days. So it's just amazing work, and I really, really appreciate that. And if we can help you in some way do that through Lead2Feed and using these lessons and telling us your story and being a part of the challenge, we would love to be a part of that in your chapter this year. So I had a HOSA advisor the other night ask me if, when you do your state conferences, if we had some kind of a PowerPoint or a video or something that would be helpful to you. And we can definitely do that. So if that would be helpful to you, the email is, you can ask Nancy. Sure, I can give it to you and you can send it out. If you need something specific, it's lead2feed@gmail.com. And that comes to me, and I would be happy to help you with anything that you need at your state conferences that would help you get the message out, help you tell the story. The website really is the go-to place. If you could help me a little bit by, if you click on lesson plans, if you just hover over it, there are all the lessons. This tells you the ones that are critical to check in, that populates your project form. If you go to About the Challenge, it has the rules. But once you register on about the program, you go to Join, the very beginning. You register, then you would always be able to log in, and your dashboard would be here. And you do everything through your dashboard, so it's real simple. If you need the Common Core, if you need resources, there's a digital resource kit. There's how do I write a press release? How do I find a charity? There's PowerPoint templates, there's letterhead templates, there's t-shirt iron-on transfers. There's all kinds of things. The Walk the Talk blog has all the winter videos from last year and the year before. It has taking the lesson further. It has 10 tips for taking the lessons even further if you find that one lesson was too simple. Just all kinds of resources, and everything we do goes through the website. Every connection, every So this is always the go-to place, but it's real simple. But if there's something you need, lead2feed@gmail.com comes to me, and I would be happy to help you. I watch that like a concerned parent, and I answer everybody right away. And I had someone write to it and not realize it was me. I spoke at a conference, then an email came in to lead2feed@gmail, and it said, this nice lady spoke at our conference, and I wanted her to come to one of our other conferences. Do you know who she is? I wrote back and I said, it's me, the Wizard of Oz. I'm behind the curtain. And thank you for saying I was nice. So it's kind of funny that it doesn't have a name attached, so people don't realize it. But that was the quick and down and dirty overview. Tell me what kind of questions you have, what would be helpful to you.
Are all of these handouts on the website?
They are, yes. Yeah. The leadership skills is not up there yet. In the next 2 weeks, it will be up there. We just developed that piece. So if you need that piece, email me and I'll send it to you. You can make copies, but it will be up there in the next 2 weeks. What else? What else would be helpful to you?
So they register every year?
You do register every year, yes. So if you registered last year, we do need you to go in and register again this year. This year you do build your profile. Last year you registered, you checked in, it didn't save any of your information on the website, so it was very painful. So this year you do create a profile and you can always see what you've entered. So for in the instance of Elaine Adams, she had 3 teams going. So you go in, you create your profile, and then you add your teams. So her teams have to check in at 2, 6, and 9, and they track through individually to submit individual projects. But all that's done on your dashboard. So it populates the name of your school and your name and all of that every time. But it's really helpful for her to go in and see how her teams are doing, how they're progressing through the lessons, or if they've completed them, and how that's working. So. Because it's a legal contest in the U.S., we do ask that adults, advisor or teacher, enter the information. Some of it they let the students enter and they supervise it. But I will tell you, those teachers who allow the students to totally complete the project submission form without editing it, those don't come across well at all, because it's almost like putting a student in a competition with an adult. So you really want to edit their work and take what they say and make sure that it's as robust as it can be as far as telling their story. And that's a great coaching opportunity. Did you have a question?
The age ranges for eligible competitors?
6th through 12th grade. So I think that in the legal document it probably says 11 and up.
Can you tell me there's a December deadline, a March, tell me the deadlines.
Sure. If you complete your project this semester, enter it by December 15th, and it would be eligible for those 5 technology grants. If you're still working on your project, enter it by March 13th, and there'll be another drawing for 5 more technology grants. But the final deadline for all projects is April 17th.
April 17th.
And we don't judge any projects on their content until April 17th.
So your school could potentially win a $5,000 grant and never even win the actual challenge.
Yes.
Just by submitting a project, you're entered into that drawing.
Correct.
That's
Yep.
fantastic.
So then when the projects are judged on the merits of the project, and results is only 25%. So those 31 cans, that still qualifies, because it's about impact of the leadership lessons. It's about innovation and creativity. It's about, and I don't remember what the strategy, culture, and I should know that. Too much time with the lawyers. But there are 4 categories, and they're each worth 25%. So it's not all about the results. But so then when the challenge piece is judged, there are 5 grand prize winners that win $25,000 each for their charity. There are 10 second prize winners who win $10,000 each for their charity. And there are 10 more third prize winners who win $5,000 each for their charities.
This might be obvious, but does all the food stay local then?
It can. You can fight hunger locally or globally. So there are some teams, there was a team the first year that won, that did a program in their community, then communicated with their sister. A lot of cities have sister cities in another country, and they communicated with their sister city in India, and that school did an equal project. So all the money that we give has to stay in the United States, but your students can do projects that impact hunger globally if they choose. there are a lot of students, have you heard of the free rice program? There are a lot of schools that do that just to kill time. Instead of playing a video game, they play the free rice game, and they total up those points and just enter it as a piece of information on their project. That's very popular. Empty Bowls is also very popular, another program. But you do have to work with the 501c3 registered charity. All right, anything else? Again, I appreciate you as teachers and student advisors. Working with students and changing lives is amazing. So personally, I really appreciate that. If I can be of any assistance to you as you integrate Lead2Feed into what you're doing, I'm happy to help. So please reach out to me through that email or through the website, and we'll be glad to follow up with you and help you out. So, thank you.